The blizzard screams across the Wyoming rangeland like something alive and hunting. Snow falls in horizontal sheets, erasing all traces of the world. Fences, paths, the thin line between earth and sky. The wind howls with voices that sound almost human, a keening that rises and falls and never stops. At the edge of the wilderness, barely visible through the white fury, stands an abandoned line shack. Rough timber walls, half-collapsed roof, door hanging crooked on frozen hinges. Inside, in the corner, farthest from the broken door, Anna Mercer lies curled on her side on the frozen dirt floor, too weak to move. The shack offers almost no shelter. Wind screams through gaps in the walls, carrying snow that accumulates in small white dunes along the floor. The single small window has frozen opaque with ice, just blocking even the faint gray light of winter dawn. No firewood remains. Anna burned the last broken chair leg 2 days ago, watching the flames die and knowing they would not return. The temperature inside is barely different from the killing cold outside. The walls are bare, except for old shepherd's marks carved years ago by men long dead. And beside Anna, scratched into the wood with a nail she found in the corner, 4 fresh marks, not counting days, counting survival. When you give up counting dates, you count only that you are still breathing. Anna's body is shutting down. Her stomach stopped hurting yesterday. Now there is just hollow numbness where hunger used to burn. Her hands have curled into claws, fingers stiff and unresponsive, the tips blackened with frostbite that has claimed the flesh, but not yet reached bone. Her lips are cracked and bleeding, each breath scraping across them like sandpaper. Her breath comes visible in small white clouds, shallow and slowing. The thin dress she wears was meant for autumn, not deep winter. Frost rims her hair, turning it white at the edges. The shivering stopped hours ago. Her body has no heat left to generate, no fuel to burn. This is how freezing to death feels. First pain, then numbness, then a sleepy peace that whispers it would be so easy to simply close your eyes and drift away. She welcomes it. 4 days. Or is it 5? Time lost meaning after hunger ate her thoughts, after cold consumed her ability to track anything beyond the rhythm of her own failing heartbeat. She counts her breaths now instead. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then rests for 15 before beginning again. Memories surface unbidden. She's slipping through the cracks in her failing consciousness. Thomas's laugh, warm and rich like honey. The kitchen in their ranch house. The smell of bread baking in the oven. His brother's face when he said, "You have 3 days to leave." The long ride on her dying horse through snow that grew deeper with every mile. The moment the horse collapsed beneath her, too weak to continue. Walking through snow that reached her knees, then her thighs, falling, crawling here on hands and knees, fingers too numb to feel the frozen ground beneath them. Giving up. She twists the wedding ring on her finger. It turns easily now, too loose, slipping toward the knuckle. 16 years she wore it. Thomas gave it to her under the cottonwood tree by the creek, the summer sun warm on her shoulders and his hand steady as he slid it onto her finger. Thomas is dead. The ranch is gone. His family took everything, the land, the livestock, the house, her very identity. She has nothing. Is nothing. Maybe she always was nothing, and marriage just let her pretend otherwise for a while. Anna tries to sit up. Her body will not obey. The muscles do not respond to her commands as if the connection between her mind and her flesh has been severed by cold and starvation. She manages to turn her head toward the frozen window, the movement taking all her remaining strength. Dawn is coming, pale gray seeping into the black like ink diluting in water. Her last dawn. She thinks she should feel something about that. Fear, perhaps, regret. Anger at the injustice of dying alone and forgotten in this abandoned shack, while Thomas's brother sleeps warm in the house she helped build. She feels nothing. Just cold, just tired, just ready. Anna, she whispers, testing the name, testing if it still means anything. Her voice is a rasp, barely audible even to her own ears. Anna Mercer. It doesn't. The name is hollow, a sound without substance. Anna died when Thomas did. This is just a body waiting to stop. Outside, beneath the blizzard's howl, a new sound emerges. Steady, rhythmic, hoofbeats cutting through the storm, growing louder. Anna does not hear them. Her eyes are closed. Her breathing has slowed to almost nothing. But the sound comes anyway, impossible and real, pushing through the wind and snow and cold. Someone is riding straight toward the shack through weather that should have killed any traveler hours ago. Someone is coming. The door slams open. Wind roars into the shack, bringing a swirl of snow and a blast of cold that steals what little breath Anna has left. Her eyes snap open, or try to. Her lashes have frozen together. She manages to crack them apart, each blink scraping like sand across her vision. A massive silhouette fills the doorway, backlit by the gray dawn breaking through the storm. She cannot make out features, just size, tall, impossibly broad, blocking all light. A figure from Nightmare. Her heart, slow and failing moments ago, suddenly slams against her ribs. Terror floods through her body, giving her one last burst of strength born of pure animal fear. She tries to scramble backward. Her body barely obeys. She manages to move 3 inches before her strength fails completely. A whimper escapes her cracked lips, the sound small and pathetic even to her own ears. The figure steps inside, ducking beneath the low door frame. Snow clings to his wide-brimmed hat, his heavy oilskin coat, his shoulders that seem as wide as the doorway itself. His boots sound loud on the frozen floor, definite, certain, advancing. He moves toward her, and Anna sees him clearly for the first time. Native features, long black hair tied back with leather cord, weathered brown skin, and slashing across the left side of his face from temple to jaw, a thick, twisted scar that pulls at his eye. He looks exactly like the man the townspeople whisper about. The half-breed cowboy up in the foothills. Dangerous. Killed 3 men once. Stay away from him. This is that man. Anna's breath comes in shallow, panicked gasps. He's going to kill her. She's too weak to stop him. This is how she dies. Not from cold, but from violence in the hands of a stranger. She presses her back against the wall. Her eyes are wide, unblinking. She cannot speak. Her throat is too dry, her tongue too swollen. Her hands raise weakly as if they could possibly ward him off. She's shaking now, but not from cold. This is terror. This is worse than freezing to death. This is... Easy. His voice cuts through her panic. It's deep, quiet, with something almost gentle underneath the roughness. I'm not here to hurt you. She doesn't believe him. Can't. He takes another step toward her. She flinches, pressing harder against the wall. He stops immediately. His eyes, dark brown, steady, sweep across her face, reading her fear as clearly as if she'd shouted it. Slowly, deliberately, he raises both hands, showing her his empty palms. "You're freezing to death," he says. "I can help, or I can leave. Your choice." The words land like stones in still water. Your choice. Anna's mind stumbles over them. He's asking permission. Killers don't ask permission. When did you last eat? The question is so practical, so concerned, so utterly unexpected that something in Anna's terror cracks. Her mouth works, trying to form words. Nothing comes out. She can't remember. Yesterday? The day before? Time has become meaningless. How long you been here? Anna manages to lift one trembling hand. She points shakily at the 4 marks scratched into the wood beside her. His jaw tightens. Something flashes in his eyes, anger, swift and hot but not directed at her. At whoever left her here, at the world that lets women die alone in abandoned shacks. Christ, he mutters under his breath. Then, decisive, I'm coming closer. Gonna check your hands and feet? Then I'm getting food into you. He kneels, moving slowly, keeping his movements visible and predictable as if approaching a wild animal that might bolt. When he reaches for her hand, Anna's first instinct is to pull away. She doesn't have the strength. His hand closes gently around hers. His palm is warm. She had forgotten what warm feels like. He examines her blackened fingertips, his expression grim. Frostbite, he says quietly. Not too deep yet? You're lucky. Lucky. The word almost makes her laugh. What part of dying alone in an abandoned line shack is lucky? He reaches into his coat and pulls out a cloth bundle tied with string. His fingers work the knot open. The smell hits her like a physical blow. Dried meat, cornbread, something sweet that might be molasses. Her stomach cramps so violently that she gasps. Saliva floods her mouth. Her body remembers hunger even if her mind has moved beyond it. He breaks off a small piece of cornbread and offers it to her. Slow, he says. You eat too fast, you'll be sick. Small bites. Anna takes the bread with shaking fingers. She can barely grip it. Every instinct screams at her to devour it like an animal, to cram it into her mouth and swallow without chewing. She forces herself to take a small bite instead. The texture is strange against her tongue. She's forgotten what eating feels like. It hurts going down her dry throat, scraping all the way to her stomach. It's the most beautiful pain she's ever felt. Tears stream down her face. She's crying and eating, and she can't stop either. He watches without speaking, without judging, his face unreadable. Then he reaches for the canteen at his belt, uncorks it, and offers it to her. Water, he says. Sips. She obeys. The water is cold and clean and perfect. She wants to drink forever, to drown in the simple miracle of it. Why? The word comes out as barely a whisper. She swallows, tries again. Why help me? He's quiet for a long moment. The wind howls outside, but inside the shack there is only the sound of her ragged breathing and his steady presence. Because I know what it's like, he says finally, when they decide you're not worth saving. Someone should have come for you before now, but I'm here now. That'll have to be enough. His voice carries old pain, old anger at a world that abandons people simply because it can. Anna stops chewing. She looks at him, really looks past the scar, and past the fear the townspeople planted in her mind. She sees exhaustion etched around his eyes. She sees scar tissue that speaks of violence survived. And underneath it all, she sees something else, a loneliness that mirrors her own. My cabin is 3 miles north, he says. Oh, fire, more food, warm bed. I'll take you there. She should be afraid. This feared man, this stranger with blood on his reputation, offering to take her somewhere remote where no one will hear her if she screams. But Anna looks down at the bread in her hands, at her frostbitten fingers that are already starting to hurt less, at the man who rode through an impossible blizzard to reach a shack he had no reason to check, who asked her permission before helping, who sees her when the rest of the world looked away. She nods once. Can you walk? She shakes her head. Then I'll carry you. He stands and removes his heavy coat. Before she can protest, he wraps it around her thin shoulders. It's warm from his body heat. It smells like leather and wood smoke and something else. Safety, maybe, though she's forgotten what that smells like, too. He lifts her as if she weighs nothing. Perhaps she doesn't anymore. He cradles her against his chest, and through the layers of fabric between them, she can feel his heartbeat. Steady, strong, certain. Hold on, he says quietly. Dawn's breaking. Storm's passing. You're not dying today. Eli carries Anna through the thinning storm. her weight barely registering in his arms. Dawn spreads pale gold across the white landscape, pushing back the darkness that nearly claimed her. The blizzard is breaking apart into scattered snow flurries. The winds howl, softening to something almost gentle. The world becomes visible again. Vast rangeland stretching toward distant mountains, fence posts emerging from snowdrifts like grave markers, the sky turning from black to gray to the palest blue. His horse waits where he left it, tied to a skeletal cottonwood tree. The bay gelding is patient and calm, its breath steaming in the cold air. Eli settles Anna carefully into the saddle, then swings up behind her. He wraps one arm around her waist to hold her steady. His body is a wall of warmth at her back. She leans into it without thinking, too exhausted and cold to maintain any distance. They ride through snow that reaches the horse's knees, climbing gradually into the foothills. Anna drifts in and out of awareness. She registers sensations in fragments. The rhythmic sway of the horse beneath them, the creak of leather, Eli's steady breathing against her hair, the slow return of feeling to her frozen limbs. Each breath of cold air stings her lungs. Each minute that passes, she's still alive. The cabin appears almost without warning. It sits nestled against a rocky outcropping, small, solid, built from rough-hewn logs chinked with clay. Smoke rises from the stone chimney in a thin gray line. A single window faces south, curtain drawn against the cold. There is no decoration, no wasted space. Everything about it speaks of function over comfort, of a life pared down to essentials. The home of someone who stopped expecting company years ago. Eli dismounts and lifts Anna down. She cannot stand on her own. He carries her to the door, and for a moment, he hesitates. "It's not much," he says, and something in his voice sounds almost apologetic. But it's warm. He pushes the door open. Heat rolls out like a wave. Anna gasps, the sound half sob, half breath, all relief. Eli carries her inside and the warmth is overwhelming, almost painful. Her skin prickles as blood flow returns to frozen tissue. She begins to shake violently, her teeth chattering so hard she thinks they might break. "That's good," Eli says quietly, setting her gently in the single chair beside the hearth. "Means you're warming up. I know it hurts." He wraps a thick wool blanket around her shoulders, tucking it carefully around her body as if she might shatter from rough handling. Then he kneels to remove her shoes, if they can still be called that. They're more ice than leather now, frozen solid and cracking apart. He examines her feet with the same careful attention he gave her hands. 3 toes show signs of frostbite, the skin pale and waxy. He touches them gently, checking for sensation. "You'll keep them," he says, satisfaction in his voice. "Lucky again." Anna's eyes adjust to the dim interior. The cabin is a single room, perhaps 15 feet square. The hearth dominates one wall, fire burning steady and bright behind an iron grate. A narrow bed is pushed against the opposite wall, covered with a patchwork quilt. A small table holds a single chair, the one she now occupies. Shelves line another wall, stacked with supplies: flour sack, coffee tin, salt pork wrapped in cloth, dried beans in glass jars. Hooks near the door hold spare clothes and a heavy coat. A rifle rests above the doorframe. On the mantel above the fire, a single decoration: a wooden carving of a crow in flight, wings spread wide. Everything is meticulously organized. Everything is built for one person. One chair, one cup hanging from a peg, one plate drying beside the wash basin. The space speaks of solitude not chosen but accepted, of a man who learned long ago not to set a place for anyone else. Eli moves through the cabin with quiet efficiency. He fills a pot with water from a barrel in the corner, hangs it over the fire on an iron hook. He slices salt pork with a knife that looks well used and well cared for, adds the meat to the pot along with dried beans, a wrinkled onion, a pinch of sage from a bundle hanging near the window. Within minutes, the rich smell of cooking food fills the small space, driving out the scent of cold and snow. He cuts thick slices from a dark bread loaf on the table, sets them on the hearthstones to warm. Then he takes a tin cup from its peg, fills it with coffee from a pot that's been keeping warm at the fire's edge. Real coffee. Anna can smell it. Not chicory or roasted grain substitute, but genuine coffee beans, dark and bitter and precious. He hands her the cup. "Careful," he says. "Hot." Anna wraps both hands around the cup, absorbing the heat through her palms. The metal is almost too hot to hold, but she doesn't care. She brings it to her lips and sips carefully. The coffee is strong enough to strip paint, bitter and perfect. She closes her eyes. This might be what heaven feels like. Not angels or harps, but warmth and coffee and the simple miracle of being alive. When she opens her eyes, Eli is watching her. There's something in his expression she can't quite name. Not pity, she would recognize pity, not desire, though she's braced for that. Something gentler. Recognition, perhaps. The look of someone who understands what it means to come in from the cold. "You're far from Clearwater," he says. It's not quite a question. Anna nods, not trusting her voice yet. Thomas Mercer's widow. She startles, nearly spilling the coffee. "You know?" "Know of you," he says, stirring the pot over the fire. "Heard what his brother did. Whole territory heard. Most people figured you went east to family. I have no family." The words taste like ash in her mouth. "Just Thomas, and he's gone." Eli is quiet for a moment, the only sound the bubble of the pot and the crackle of the fire. "His brother's a bastard," he says finally. "She is stealing a woman's home like that." "Legally, it was never mine," Anna says. "My name wasn't on the deed." "Legal doesn't mean right." The words are simple, but the anger underneath them is fierce and bright. Anna studies him, this scarred, solitary man who speaks of justice as if it still matters. "Why do they call you the feared cowboy?" He goes very still. For a moment she thinks he won't answer. Then he gestures to his face, to the twisted scar that runs from temple to jaw. "Because I'm half Crow. Because of this. Because I once beat 3 white men nearly to death, and white folks don't forget when a half-breed makes them bleed." "Why did you beat them?" "They were hurting someone." His voice is flat, final. "I stopped them." "Was it worth it?" Anna asks. "The reputation?" He looks directly at her. His eyes are steady, dark, unflinching. "She lived. So yes." Silence stretches between them. Not uncomfortable. Something else. Understanding, perhaps. Anna sees it clearly now. This man has been judged, cast out, feared for doing what was right, just as she was cast out for being inconvenient, for being a woman without a man's name to shelter behind. Kindred spirits, both of them. "You can stay," Eli says, ladling stew into a wooden bowl. "Long as you need." "I have no money," Anna says. "Nothing to pay you with." "I'm not asking for payment." "Then why?" He sets the bowl in front of her, places a spoon beside it. "Because you needed help, and I could give it. That's reason enough." He meets her eyes. "Eat, then sleep. You're safe here." Anna looks at the stew, steam rising in delicate curls. She looks at the fire. This quiet man who rode through a blizzard for a stranger. Something inside her chest. Something that's been frozen solid for months. Flickers. Not hope, not yet. But not hopelessness either. Something in between. The fragile possibility of tomorrow. She eats slowly. Each bite warms her from the inside out. When the bowl is finally empty, Eli gestures to the narrow bed against the wall. "Take it," he says. "I'll sleep by the fire." "I can't take your bed. You need it more than I do. We'll argue about it when you're stronger." He's already pulling blankets from the shelf, making a pallet on the floor near the hearth. Anna is too exhausted to protest further. She rises on shaking legs, crosses the few steps to the bed, and lies down. The mattress is thin but clean, the pillow soft beneath her head. She can't remember the last time she slept on anything other than frozen ground. Eli banks the fire, reducing it to glowing coals. He turns down the lantern until shadows fill the corners of the cabin. "Sleep, Anna," he says quietly. It's the first time he's used her name. "You're not alone anymore." In the darkness, Anna closes her eyes. For the first time in 4 months, she sleeps without nightmares. Anna wakes to pale winter sunlight streaming through the window, turning the cabin's rough walls golden. For a moment, she's disoriented. Where is she? The air smells of wood smoke and coffee. The blanket wrapped around her is wool, not frozen rags. Then memory returns. Eli's cabin. Safety. She sits up slowly, testing her body's response. The ache in her joints is less today. The sharp pain in her chest when she breathes has faded to a dull pressure. 3 days she's been here. 3 days of warm meals and sleep by the fire, of letting her frozen flesh thaw and damaged tissue begin its slow work of healing. She looks at her hands in the morning light. Her fingertips are still tender, but the blackness has faded to bruised purple. She flexes them carefully. They move. They obey. She'll keep them, Eli said. Outside, she hears a rhythmic sound. Thunk, thunk, thunk. Axe on wood. She rises from the floor pallet. They traded last night, his turn for the bed, and wraps the blanket around her shoulders. She crosses to the window and peers out. Eli stands in the clearing beside the cabin, shirtless despite the cold. He swings the axe with steady efficiency, splitting logs into kindling. Each swing is precise, controlled. He muscles cord and release across his back, his shoulders, his arms. Even from here, Anna can see the scars, old whip marks crisscrossing his shoulders, a circular burn on his left shoulder blade, the knife slash across his ribs that matches the one on his face. His body is a map of survival, of violence endured and overcome. Anna looks away quickly, heat rising in her cheeks. She feels intrusive, as if she's seen something private. By the time he comes inside, stamping snow from his boots, she's dressed in his spare shirt, the sleeves rolled up to her elbows, the hem hanging nearly to her knees, and attempting to tidy the cabin. She's sweeping the floor with the small broom she found behind the door. "You should be resting," he says. There's no command in his voice, just observation. "I've rested enough," Anna replies, or not looking up from her sweeping. "I need to be useful." He considers this for a moment, then nods. "Can you cook?" "I kept house for 16 years. "Then make yourself at home." They settle into a rhythm as natural as breathing. He brings water from the creek in a wooden bucket, and she heats it over the fire for washing. He tends to his horse in the small lean-to beside the cabin, and she sweeps the floor, shakes out the blankets, wipes down the table. He sits on the porch step to oil his tack, working leather conditioner into the saddle and bridle, and she mends the tear in his shirt with careful, even stitches. They work side by side. There is not much talk, but the silence is comfortable, not empty. It's the silence of two people who don't need to fill every moment with words. Who can exist in the same space without demanding anything from each other? Occasionally, their hands brush, reaching for the same cup on the shelf, both grasping for the fire poker at the same moment. Anna bending to add wood to the fire just as Eli reaches for another log. Each time they both pause. The contact lasts only a second. Fingertips against knuckles, palm against wrist. But Anna feels it like a spark. They pull away and continue as if nothing happened. But something did happen. A small awareness, fragile as new ice. Neither is ready to name it. At midday, they sit at the small table for a simple lunch of bread and cheese. Anna cuts the bread while Eli pours water into 2 tin cups. The domesticity of it strikes her suddenly. How easily they've fallen into these patterns, how natural it feels to share this space. "Do you get lonely up here?" Anna asks, then immediately regrets the question. Too personal. Too intrusive. Eli chews slowly, considering. "Used to," he says finally. "Got accustomed to it." "And now?" He looks at her steadily. His dark eyes hold hers. "Now, I remember what company feels like. Forgot how much work it is." The words should sting. Instead, Anna laughs. The sound surprises her. It's the first real laugh she's made in months, perhaps since before Thomas died. It sounds rusty, unpracticed, but genuine. Eli's expression shifts, something easing in the set of his shoulders. "I'll try to be less work," she says, still smiling. He almost smiles back. The scar on his face pulls slightly, but his eyes warm. "You're doing fine, Anna." That night, when the sun sets and darkness fills the cabin except for the fire's glow, Anna insists on taking the floor pallet. Eli doesn't argue this time. They've established a pattern. 1 night bed, 1 night floor. Fair, equal, neither owing the other. Partners in this strange arrangement they've created, this fragile truce between 2 wounded people learning to share space. Anna lies on the pallet near the hearth, listening to Eli's breathing slow and deepen in the bed across the room. The fire crackles softly. Outside, wind whispers through the pines. She closes her eyes. For the first time in longer than she can remember, something inside her chest feels lighter. Not healed, but healing. There's a difference. A week has passed. Snow still falls, but less viciously now. Soft flakes drifting past the window instead of the brutal sheets that nearly killed Anna. They've found a rhythm in these days. Chores completed side by side, simple meals shared at the small table, evening hours spent by the fire with coffee or tea. Tonight, the silence between them is comfortable, almost companionable. But Anna finds herself wanting to break it. Wanting to know him, this man who saved her life and asks for nothing in return. "Tell me about your mother," she says quietly. Eli goes very still. The coffee cup pauses halfway to his lips. Anna half expects him to refuse, to retreat behind the wall of silence he's built around himself. But then he sets the cup down carefully and stares into the fire. "She was Crow," he says finally, "from the Absaroka people. My father met her when he was trapping in the mountains." His voice is distant, as if he's speaking from the bottom of a well. She was gathering medicines. She knew every plant, every root, what healed and what killed. He fell in love with her knowledge, before he fell in love with her face. Anna waits. The fire crackles. Outside, wind whispers through the pines. "They built a small ranch together," Eli continues. "Father's people disowned him for marrying a savage. Her people were wary of whites, but they made it work. Had me. Taught me both worlds. Her language and his, her ways and his. I thought I could walk between them forever." His jaw tightens. Then the government decided the Crow had to go to reservations. Soldiers came. My father stood in the yard with his rifle and said they couldn't take his wife. He pauses, the muscle in his cheek jumping. They shot him. Right there in front of me. I was 12 years old. I watched him bleed out in the dirt while they held me back. Anna's breath catches in her throat. Her chest tightens. "They forced my mother onto the reservation," Eli says, his voice flatter now, stripped of emotion. "I tried to go with her. They wouldn't let me. Too white, they said. She told me to run, to survive, to remember who I was." He touches the wooden carving of the crow on the mantel, his fingers gentle. Last thing she said to me, "You are the bridge, my son. Walk carefully." I never saw her again. Heard years later, she died of winter fever in the camp. I was 16, working a ranch in Montana, breaking horses for men who called me Breed and paid me half wages. He touches the scar on his face unconsciously, tracing the twisted line from temple to jaw. When I was 24, I was in Sheridan, who saw 3 cowboys drag a Crow woman behind the saloon. I knew what they were going to do to her. His voice hardens. I stopped them, sent 2 to the doctor, 1 to the undertaker. They arrested me. Judge let me go. Said it was clear self-defense, woman's defense, but white folks remembered. The half-breed who killed a white man. Been the feared cowboy ever since. He looks at Anna directly. So, I came here, built this cabin, figured I'd live out my years away from people who see my face and my mother's blood and decide I'm dangerous. The silence that follows is heavy with shared grief. Anna's throat aches. She knows this pain. The pain of being cast out, of being judged for things beyond your control, of watching the world take everything you love and leave you with nothing but survival. Thomas was a good man, she says finally, so her voice low. He loved me, and I loved him. We worked that ranch together. It was ours, even if the law only saw his name on the paper. When he died, I thought grief would kill me. She swallows hard, but it wasn't grief that nearly did. It was his brother Charles. The words come easier than she expected, as if Eli's honesty has opened a door in her she didn't know was locked. She tells him everything. Thomas's sudden death, the way his family descended like vultures before he was even cold in the ground, the accusations that fell from Charles's mouth like poison. Bad wife, spendthrift, careless, probably caused the accident somehow. The legal theft disguised as family right. The 3-day eviction. The townspeople who watched her humiliation from their windows and did nothing, said nothing. The ride on her failing horse through snow that grew deeper with every mile. The collapse. The 4 days in that line shack, scratching marks on the wall and waiting to die. I thought I was nothing without Thomas, Anna whispers. Tears track down her face, hot against her cold skin. Without the ranch, without the role of wife, without the identity he gave me, I lay in that shack thinking, this is right. This is what I deserve, to disappear. Her voice breaks. But you found me, and I don't know if I deserve that either. Eli reaches across the space between them. He takes her hand in his. His palm is rough, calloused, warm. You deserve to live, Anna, he says, and there's a fierceness in his voice that makes her look up. You deserved help long before I found you. What they did to you. Stealing your home. Throwing you away like you were nothing. That's on them, not you. You survived because you're strong. Stronger than they wanted you to be. Anna squeezes his hand. She can't speak past the tightness in her throat, past the tears that won't stop falling. They sit like that for a long time, hands joined across the small space, the fire crackling between them. 2 people who know what it means to be cast out, to be judged and found wanting by a world that values some lives more than others. 2 people who have survived when they shouldn't have, who carry scars both visible and hidden. This is not romance. This is something deeper. Witnessing. Being seen in fullness, the pain and the strength both, and not being turned away from. Being known, and not being found, lacking. Thank you, Anna finally whispers, for riding through that storm, for seeing me. Eli squeezes her hand gently before releasing it. Thank you for staying alive long enough to be found. Anna is alone in the cabin, kneading bread dough on the small wooden table. Eli left an hour ago to check the snare line in the woods. The cabin is warm. the fire crackling softly, flour dusting her hands. She's fallen into these rhythms, the simple domestic tasks that make her feel useful, that remind her she's more than the broken woman he carried in from the cold. She presses the heels of her hands into the dough, folds it, presses again. Then she hears it. Horses. Multiple. Coming fast. Her hands freeze. Her heart slams into her throat, pounding so hard she can hear it in her ears. She steps away from the table, flour falling from her fingers like snow. She moves to the window and peers out through a gap in the curtain. 4 riders approach through the snow. Charles Mercer in the lead, wearing a thick coat and expensive hat that mark him as a man of means. 3 ranch hands flank him, all armed with rifles slung across their saddles. Charles's face is red with cold and something else. Anger, tightly controlled but visible in the set of his jaw, the tension in his shoulders. They rein up 20 yards from the cabin door, their horses stamping and blowing steam into the frozen air. "Anna Mercer!" Charles's shout cuts through the winter silence like a blade. "I know you're in there! Come out!" Anna steps back from the window. Her breath comes too fast, too shallow. Her mind races. How did he find her? Why does he even care? He already took everything, left her with nothing. What more could he possibly want? Eli appears from the tree line, rifle in hand. He moves quickly but calmly, placing himself directly between the cabin and the mounted men. His posture is relaxed, but the rifle is ready. "This is private land," he calls out, his voice carrying easily across the snow. "State your business." Charles's lip curls. "This doesn't concern you, Breed. That's my brother's widow in there. She's under my family's protection." The word protection lands like a stone. Anna knows it for the lie it is, wrapped in the language of respectability and family duty. Eli doesn't move. "She's under my protection, and she's not going anywhere she doesn't choose to go." "You don't understand," Charles says, his tone shifting to false patience, as if explaining something to a simple child. Anna's not well. Grief has addled her mind. She wandered off in her confusion, nearly died. We're taking her back where she belongs, where family can care for her properly. Anna's blood goes cold. She knows this game. She's seen it played before with other widows, other inconvenient women. Declare her incompetent. Take legal guardianship. Control any remaining assets or claims she might have on Thomas's estate. Lock her away in an institution, or marry her off to someone Charles controls. It's not rescue. It's capture, dressed in the language of concern. She opens the cabin door, steps out despite her shaking legs. The cold air hits her face like a slap, but she stands straight. "I'm not going with you, Charles." Her voice is thin, but it's clear. It carries. Charles's expression hardens, the false concern dropping away like a mask. "Anna, be reasonable. So you have nothing. No home, no money, no prospects. You're living in sin with some savage in the wilderness. What will people think?" He gestures dismissively at Eli. "What kind of life is this?" "I don't care what people think." The words surprise her with their truth, with the firmness behind them. "I care that I'm alive. I care that Eli helped me when you left me to die. I didn't leave you to die. You left of your own choice. You gave me 3 days," Anna says, her voice stronger now. "You took everything, including the horse I left on. That's not choice, Charles. That's exile." His facade cracks. Anger bleeds through, raw and ugly. "You're coming back. Your family responsibility." "I'm not your responsibility. I'm not your property." She takes a step forward. "And I'm not going." One of the ranch hands shifts in his saddle. His hand drops to the pistol at his belt. Eli raises his rifle slightly, not aiming at anyone, not threatening, just present, just visible. "The lady said no," he says quietly. "Think carefully about your next move." The air goes tight with tension. Wind howls across the clearing. 4 armed men, 1 man with a rifle. Anna realizes with sudden sharp clarity, this could turn to bloodshed in seconds. 1 wrong word, 1 sudden movement, and blood will stain the snow. She steps forward, placing herself between Eli and the riders. Charles, leave. You got what you wanted. The ranch, the land, everything Thomas and I built. Let me go. Just let me disappear. Her voice drops. Tell people I died in the cold if you want. I won't make claims on Thomas's estate. I won't challenge you. I just want peace. Charles stares at her. So she can see calculations running behind his eyes, weighing costs, measuring risks, considering how much effort it's worth to drag her back. Finally, he speaks. This isn't over, Anna. You can't live in sin up here forever. When you come crawling back to civilization, don't expect our help. He wheels his horse around sharply. Let's go. Let the breed keep his whore. The insult lands like a physical blow. Eli takes 1 step forward, rage flashing across his face like lightning. Anna grabs his arm, her fingers digging into his coat sleeve. Don't, she says urgently. They're not worth it. The men ride away, hoofbeats muffled by snow, disappearing into the trees. When silence returns, when there's nothing left but wind and the whisper of falling snow, Anna realizes she's shaking violently. Her legs threaten to buckle. Eli turns to her, his hand coming up to steady her shoulder. Are you hurt? She shakes her head. But he'll come back, won't he? Maybe. Eli's jaw is tight. Depends how badly he needs to control you. I've put you in danger. I can handle danger. He looks at her directly. Can you handle staying here, knowing they might come again? Anna looks at the cabin, small and rough but warm. She looks at Eli, scarred and feared but kind. She looks at the mountains rising around them, holding this small sanctuary in their ancient hands. Yes, she says and means it. I can handle it, because running means they win, and I'm done running. That night, Anna cannot sleep. She lies on the floor pallet staring at the rough-hewn beams of the ceiling, her mind churning. Charles knows where she is. He rode here with 3 armed men and called her Eli's whore where anyone could hear. He threatened to return with proper authority, meaning the sheriff, maybe a judge, legal papers declaring her incompetent or morally unfit. She's not safe here anymore. Eli's not safe. Unless... She sits up. Eli? You awake? Yes. His voice comes from the darkness near the bed. Of course he is. Probably hasn't slept either. I need to go to Clearwater, Anna says. File a legal statement with the territorial court. Declare myself competent. Renounce any claim on Thomas's estate. Establish that I'm here by choice. Make it official. I'm not missing, not kidnapped, not mad. Just choosing a different life. Silence stretches between them. Then she hears him rise, his bare feet padding across the floor. He moves to the hearth and stokes the fire, and sending orange light dancing across the walls. When he turns to face her, his expression is grave. That'll put you in front of the whole town, he says. Everyone who watched Charles take your home. Everyone who stayed silent. I know. Could be dangerous. Charles could have you arrested on false charges, claim you're unfit. I know. Anna pushes herself up from the pallet, wraps the blanket around her shoulders. But hiding means living in fear forever. And I'm tired, Eli. So tired of fear. He studies her face in the firelight. If we do this, we do it smart. We go together. I stand witness to your sound mind and voluntary choice. We get the statement notarized, filed officially, and we make it clear anyone comes for you again, they're breaking the law, not upholding it. You'd do that? Anna crosses to the fireplace. and stands facing him across the flames. Stand with me publicly. People will talk. The feared cowboy and the widow, they'll assume the worst. Let them assume. His jaw sets. I've been living under assumptions my whole life. I'm used to it. Question is, can you handle their judgment? Anna looks at him directly. I've been judged by people whose opinions don't matter and found wanting. I'd rather be judged standing beside you than hiding alone. Something shifts in his expression. Warmth flickering there like the fire between them. Respect. And underneath it all, something deeper that he quickly shutters away. Then we leave at first light, he says. It's 2 days' ride to Clearwater. We'll file the papers, make you legally clear, and come home. Home. He called it home. For both of them. Anna's chest tightens. Something loosening and contracting at once. Thank you, she says quietly, for everything. Don't thank me yet. This might get ugly. I can handle ugly. She almost smiles. You taught me that. They prepare through what remains of the night. Eli cleans his rifle with methodical care, running the rod down the barrel, checking the mechanism, counting ammunition. Anna finds paper and pencil in his small store of supplies and writes out her statement in careful script, her hand steady despite the magnitude of what she's doing. She documents Charles's theft of the ranch, her voluntary residence with Eli, her sound mind and clear choices. Each word is a small act of defiance, a claim to her own life. Dawn breaks cold and bright. They pack supplies, dried meat wrapped in cloth, coffee beans, 2 tin cups, blankets rolled tight and tied with leather cord. Eli saddles both horses. The second one, a sturdy sorrel mare, he borrowed from a distant neighbor days ago, anticipating they might need to travel. He helps Anna mount, his hand steady on her elbow, and then swings up onto his own horse. They sit for a moment in the pale morning light, their breath visible in the frozen air. Anna looks back at the cabin once, her sanctuary, her healing place, the first home she's had since Thomas died. Then she turns forward, toward the mountains and the town that lies beyond them, toward whatever reckoning awaits. Eli rides beside her, a steady presence. Ready? He asks. No, Anna admits. Her hands tighten on the reins. But I'm going anyway. They ride toward Clearwater, toward confrontation, toward the legal and social reckoning that will determine if she can ever truly be free. The sun climbs slowly over the eastern peaks. Snow crunches beneath the horses' hooves, and for the first time since Thomas died, Anna is not running away from something. She is riding toward it, and she is not alone. They arrive in Clearwater at dusk. The town is exactly as Anna remembered. Wooden buildings lining the frozen main street, people hurrying through the cold with scarves wrapped tight around their faces, lamplight spilling from windows, familiar faces that look away when they see her. Whispers follow them like wolves tracking prey. That's Anna Mercer. Thought she died. Who's that with her? The half-breed from the foothills? Shameful. Her husband barely cold. Anna keeps her head up, her spine straight. But each whisper is a small cut. Each turned back a reminder of who she was in this place, the woman they watched be destroyed and did nothing to stop. They rent rooms at the boarding house, separate rooms, propriety maintained even now. The plan is simple. Tomorrow morning, they go to the courthouse, file her statement, get it notarized and recorded officially, then leave. Simple. Except nothing feels simple now that she's back in the place of her humiliation. Night falls. Anna sits on the narrow bed in her cramped room, staring at the faded wallpaper. All the day's bravery is leaking out of her like water through cracks. Tomorrow she'll face them all. Charles, the townspeople, maybe even the judge who let Charles steal everything she'll have to speak, defend herself. Prove she's competent while everyone remembers her as the weak woman who let herself be expelled. What if they don't believe her? What if they side with Charles? What if— A knock on the door. "Anna, you all right?" Eli's voice. She tries to answer. Can't. Her throat has closed. He opens the door cautiously and sees her sitting rigid on the bed, her breath coming too fast. "Anna, I can't do it." The words burst out of her. "I thought I could, but I can't. I can't go in there tomorrow and face them and speak and—" Her voice breaks. "Everyone I touch, everything I try to build, it crumbles. Thomas died. The ranch is gone. If you keep helping me, Charles will find a way to hurt you. Burn your cabin or worse. I'm poison, Eli. Everything I love dies." Her chest is crushing. Her hands shake. She can't breathe properly. The air won't go in, won't fill her lungs. The walls press closer. Her vision narrows. Eli kneels in front of her. He takes her hands firmly in his. "Anna, look at me, look." She drags her gaze to his face. "You are not poison," he says, his voice steady and certain. "You didn't kill Thomas. An accident did. You didn't lose the ranch. Charles stole it. You didn't fail. They failed you. The town, the law, the people who should have protected you. They failed. But you—" The words choke out of her. "If you keep standing with me, I'm not going anywhere. You don't get to push me away for my own good. I choose this. I choose standing with you. And if Charles comes for me, I'll handle it. I've survived worse than him. What if you don't?" Tears stream down her face. "What if—" "Then I don't." His grip on her hands tightens. "But I'd rather risk everything standing beside you than live safe and alone. That's not living, Anna. That's just slow dying." She breaks. Completely. Sobs tear out of her. Months of held grief and terror and shame pouring out in waves she cannot control. Eli pulls her into his arms and holds her while she shakes apart. He doesn't tell her to stop, doesn't try to fix it, just stays, just witnesses. "I'm scared," she chokes out against his shoulder. "I know." His hand moves to the back of her head, steady and warm. "But you're not alone in the scared. I'm right here." They stay like that, her weeping, him holding steady, until the storm passes and exhaustion drags her under. He lays her gently on the bed, covers her with the thin boarding house blanket, and sits in the chair by the window to keep watch through the night. When dawn comes, they'll face the town. But first, this darkness, this breaking, this being held while falling apart. Anna wakes to pale dawn light filtering through the thin curtains of the boarding house room. For a moment, she's disoriented. Then she sees him. Eli sits in the chair beside her bed, his arms crossed, his head tilted back against the wall. He never left. He kept watch through the entire night. Something inside her has shifted. The storm has passed. She's exhausted. Her eyes feel swollen, her throat raw from crying. But she's clearer than she's been in months. The panic that crushed her last night has burned itself out, leaving behind something harder. Something like steel. She sits up slowly. "I'm going to do it," she says quietly. Eli opens his eyes, studies her face. "You're certain?" "No." She pushes the blanket aside. He sets her feet on the cold floor. "But I'm going anyway. Fear already took everything from me. I won't give it my voice, too." She rises and crosses to the wash basin. The water is cold, but she splashes it on her face anyway, scrubbing away the salt tracks of last night's tears. Her hands are steady as she braids her hair, weaving the dark strands with practiced efficiency. She wears her own dress, the one Eli mended for her, clean and simple, nothing fancy. It's all she has. It will have to be enough. She looks at her reflection in the small mirror. The woman staring back is older than the one who rode away from the ranch months ago, thinner, marked by winter's brutality, frostbite scars still visible on her fingertips, lines around her eyes that weren't there before. But she's alive. Still here. Still Anna. "How do I look?" she asks, she turning to face Eli. He stands, crosses the small room to her. "Like someone who survived," he says. His voice is quiet but firm. "Like someone who's done being afraid." She nods once. "Let's go make it official." They walk to the courthouse together through the morning cold. The town is already stirring. Shopkeepers opening their doors, horses and wagons moving down the frozen street, people bundling into coats and scarves. More whispers follow them, but Anna doesn't look away anymore. She looks directly at the faces that once knew her, that watched her fall and did nothing. Let them see. She's still here. They couldn't erase her. At the courthouse steps, Eli pauses. "Want me beside you or outside?" Anna doesn't hesitate. "Beside me." She meets his eyes. "Always beside me." They climb the steps together. She opens the heavy door and walks into the lion's den with her head high. The courthouse is packed. Word spread fast through Clearwater that Thomas Mercer's widow was filing a legal statement, and the curious have gathered like crows to carrion. Judge Harlan presides from behind his weathered oak bench, an old man, face lined by decades of frontier justice, fair-minded if formal. Anna stands before him, her hands clutching the paper that holds her carefully written statement. Eli stands behind her, close enough that she can feel his presence, his steadiness. To her left, Charles and his lawyer occupy their own space, both wearing expressions of confident superiority. The gallery is filled with townspeople, faces she recognizes, faces that once smiled at her and now watch with cold curiosity. Anna begins reading. Her voice shakes at first, thin and uncertain. "I, Anna Mercer, do hereby make this statement of my own free will." She pauses, swallows, continues. Her voice steadies as the words come. She details Thomas's death, the sudden arrival of his family, Charles's immediate seizure of the property, the legal theft hiding behind the language of family rights, the forced eviction with no resources, the near death from exposure, Eli's rescue, her voluntary choice to reside with him during her recovery. "I am of sound mind," she says, her voice clear now. "I make this statement freely. I renounce all claims to Thomas Mercer's estate. In return, I ask for legal recognition that I am competent, independent, and making my own choices. I ask that no one, family or otherwise, has legal authority over me." She folds the paper. Her hands are steady. Charles's lawyer rises immediately, his expensive suit rustling. "Your Honor, this woman is clearly under undue influence. She's been isolated with an unsavory character for weeks. We petition for a competency evaluation and protective guardianship under her late husband's family." The words are polite. The meaning is clear. They want to declare her incompetent, take legal control, lock her away, or marry her off to someone Charles chooses. Judge Harlan looks at Anna. "Mrs. Mercer, do you understand what's being suggested?" "Yes, Your Honor." Anna's chin lifts. "Mr. Mercer wishes to control me because I'm inconvenient, alive, and free. He took my home. Now he wants my autonomy." That's a strong accusation. It's the truth. Charles stands, his face flushing red. "She's hysterical, Your Honor. Living in sin with a half-breed savage? That's enough." The judge's voice cracks like a whip. "I'll determine hysteria, Mr. Mercer. Not you." He turns back to Anna. "Tell me, why did you wait weeks to come forward?" "Because I was starving to death in an abandoned line shack," Anna says. "Mr. Crow saved my life. I stayed because I was healing. I came today because Mr. Charles Mercer tracked me down and threatened to take me by force. I'm here voluntarily, speaking freely, asking for the law's protection from harassment." Judge Harlan turns to Eli. "Mr. Crow, you're willing to testify that Mrs. Mercer is here by choice?" "Yes, sir." Eli's voice is steady. "She's free to leave any time. Free to stay any time, her choice." "And your relationship?" Eli's jaw tightens, but his voice remains level. "Respectful. I offered shelter. She accepted. Nothing improper." Charles scoffs loudly. The judge ignores him. Then, unexpected, an elderly woman stands in the gallery. Mrs. Henderson, the shopkeeper. "Your Honor, may I speak?" Judge Harlan nods. "I've known Anna Mercer 16 years, Mrs. Henderson says, her voice carrying through the courtroom. She ran that ranch competently alongside her husband. When Thomas died, Charles descended like a vulture. The whole town knows he stole her home legally. If she's hysterical, it's because we all stood by and let it happen. She sounds perfectly sane to me now, more than Charles ever has." Murmurs ripple through the gallery. More heads nod. Judge Harlan bangs his gavel once, sharp and final. "Enough. I've heard sufficient." He looks directly at Anna. "Mrs. Mercer, your statement is coherent, specific, and credible. I find no evidence of incompetence or undue influence. Your statement is accepted and recorded. You are legally recognized as an independent adult with full rights. Mr. Charles Mercer, this court warns you. Further harassment constitutes a criminal offense. Dismissed." The gavel falls. Anna sways slightly. Eli's hand steadies her elbow. She did it. She spoke her truth in front of everyone. She won. Not perfectly. Some in the gallery still whisper, still judge. But the law heard her. That's enough. Outside, cold air hits her face like baptism. Anna breathes deep. Free. Legally, officially free. "You were magnificent," Eli says quietly. Anna laughs, the sound shaky but real. "I was terrified." "Courage isn't the lack of fear," Eli says. "It's speaking anyway. You did that." She looks at him. This man who rode through a storm for a stranger, who stood beside her when she had nothing, who believed in her when she couldn't believe in herself. "We did that," she corrects. "Together." Weeks pass. The snow begins melting, first in patches where the sun strikes longest, then in rivers that carve channels through the white. First green shoots appear through the frozen ground, brave and stubborn. Anna and Eli expand the cabin, building an addition for storage, their hands working wood and nails into something solid. They plant a kitchen garden in the cleared space behind the house, turning soil that's just beginning to thaw. They repair fences together, side by side, establishing rhythms that feel as old as the mountains. Coffee at dawn, chores through the morning, shared meals, evening hours by the fire. Then, unexpected, a neighbor woman arrives on horseback, a small child wrapped in blankets against her chest. "Heard you used to be a healer, Mrs. Mercer," the woman says, her voice tight with worry. "My daughter's burning with fever. Can you help?" Anna hesitates only a moment, then, "Bring her inside." She examines the child, a girl of perhaps 5, her skin hot to the touch, her breathing shallow. Anna recognizes the symptoms. She knows what herbs are needed. She sends Eli for willow bark and yarrow while she cools the fever with wet cloths, patient and methodical. By evening, the fever breaks. The mother weeps into Anna's shoulder. "Thank you. The doctor's 2 days away. You saved her." Word spreads. More come. A man with an infected wound that's begun to turn, a woman in difficult pregnancy who needs someone with steady hands, an elderly farmer whose joints have swollen with age and cold. Anna helps each one. Not for payment, though they bring what they can: eggs, flour, preserves, a hen that lays faithfully. She helps because healing is who she is, who she's always been, even when the world tried to take that from her. Eli builds a second small structure beside the cabin, a healing house with shelves for medicines, a clean space for treating patients, a window that lets in good light. He builds it without being asked, the same way he built everything else, with steady hands and quiet purpose. Spring arrives fully. Wildflowers bloom in the meadows, purple lupine and yellow balsam root. The creek runs loud with snowmelt, its voice filling the valley. Birds return, their songs layering over one another in the early mornings. Anna plants her garden, vegetables for eating, herbs for healing, flowers simply because they're beautiful. She watches things grow. She's growing too, stronger, steadier, more certain of her place in the world. One evening, she stands on the cabin porch watching the sunset paint the mountains gold and pink. Eli stands beside her, their shoulders nearly touching. She realizes this is home, not the ranch she lost, not the life she had before. This life they're building together, piece by piece, day by day. Evening settles over the mountains, the air finally carrying warmth after months of brutal cold. Anna and Eli sit on the porch they built together, watching stars emerge one by one in the darkening sky. He takes her hand, no longer careful, no longer tentative. Anna. Yes? When I found you in that line shack, you were hours from death. His thumb traces across her knuckles. I thought I'd be burying you that day. But you didn't. But I didn't. And every day since I've been grateful. Not just that you lived, that you stayed, that you chose this, chose me. She turns to face him fully. Eli, you gave me life when I'd given up on it, but more than that, you gave me choice. You never demanded, never took, just offered, and waited for me to find my strength again. She squeezes his hand. I'm choosing you now. Not because I need rescuing, because I want partnership, because I love you. Something in his expression breaks open. Wonder lighting his face, relief and joy mixing in his dark eyes. I love you too. Have for weeks. Didn't know if you... She kisses him, soft and certain. Their first kiss. Months of trust and healing and choosing, culminating in this moment. When they part, he's smiling. Rare, genuine, beautiful. Marry me, he says simply. Be Anna Crow, or stay Anna Mercer. I don't care about names. Just be mine, and I'll be yours. Yes. No hesitation. Yes. They had abandoned her to starve in the frozen wilderness during the darkest winter, left her to collapse alone where no one would find her. But a feared cowboy rode through the storm and found her just in time before dawn. Not because he sought glory, but because he knew what it meant to be cast out and chose not to look away. Anna learned that survival alone was not enough. True strength came not from standing alone, but from choosing to be seen, choosing to belong, choosing love even when the world said she wasn't worthy of it. And in the warmth of his arms, beneath the vast Wyoming sky, she understood. She hadn't just survived. She had become whole. Together, and they faced the future, not fearless but unafraid to be afraid together, and that made all the difference.